Hi, you've reached Call Your Publicist, your go-to source for PR moves, media moments, and brand strategies that keep businesses and people in the headlines for the right reasons. I'm one of your hosts, Jenna and CEO and founder of JMG Public Relations.
And I'm your co-host, Alexandra Anastasio. Let's start talking.
Today, we're joined by Anthony Shook, an entrepreneur and co-founder of Foster's Lab, to talk about how AI is reshaping PR and communication.
We're breaking down what this technology really means for storytellers, journalists, and brands, and how to use it without losing the human touch.
Let's get into it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited about this. So you had deemed me a very specific question about AI and PR. And it's so funny because we were having this conversation and we were about to do a podcast about this. And we're like, perfect timing. We need Anthony's perspective on this. I'm so glad you reached out at this time. Perfect.
I really have loved following you and the book, and I wanted to really get your perspective about how these kind of tools are changing the communication landscape and how they're breaking into more of the professional type industries as opposed to being a kid in a dorm room trying to figure out their paper for school, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, the AR conversation is so evolved, and we're not really talking about it from like the technical perspective because we're definitely not experts on that, but more so like how does it affect our communications field? But I would love to also, for our viewers that aren't familiar with you, do you mind sharing, we talk in sound bites here, but at a high level, tell us a little bit about your background, what you're doing in San Francisco that's really exciting. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Sure. So I have been around tech for a long time, and I was part of an ad tech company before and started a brand that I was playing around with called Foster's Lab, which is a skincare brand. We were utilizing it to do a lot of test case within the advertising space. And so it's really been interesting to see how that portrays to advertising and kind of our return on investment on advertising. But then I moved away from that and have been an investor in tech for a while. And what's really exciting for still having a skincare brand is how AI and tech are really coming together in order to take smaller brands, founders, smaller teams, and make it a lot more effective and useful, particularly in communication, but also in advertising, in content generation. So I've been really excited for what's all happening in AI here in San Francisco. It's insane. I mean, just from what, has been going on with ChatGPT, with Sora, with everything. San Francisco is having another almost feels like .com boom.
Oh, that's a good comparison because this is like the next wave where back then people didn't really know what to expect, and I think that's the same thing here. It's like we're all waiting, trying to figure out how do we incorporate it? Is this scary? But some people are threatened by it, but it really can be an asset when used in the right way. Efficient, it adds to the value of your work, but it doesn't have to replace us entirely.
I think it's where it's almost like it. How do I explain it? You shouldn't fear it, but you should embrace it. And especially if you don't really, I know for myself, I'm embracing it, but I definitely have so much more to learn about it because just to give some context, from a writer's perspective, from a writer's side, there's almost that fear of is this going to replace me? But it's not. I just have to learn how to use it in the way that it's going to help me, right? Not hinder me. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong too, but I feel like I saw a stat. So when AI is capable of doing the most tasks for a certain job, the number of employees within that role drops to 14%. So I was like, well, that's interesting because, then you say to yourself, well, am I going to lose my authenticity? Am I going to lose what I'm doing? But then I saw this other quote, which I thought was really impactful. And I was like, okay, this made me feel a little better. It's interesting. It says, but when AI's impact is concentrated in just a few tasks within a role, leaving other responsibilities untouched, employment in that role can grow. And the reason for that was that with some of these automated tasks, right, we can focus our activities where AI is less capable, right? Mm-hmm. So in terms of, let's say, as a writer, maybe it helps with research, but it can't replace my authenticity. It can't replace that human touch that only, when I say me, meaning the person, the writer, the journalist can give it. So I think that's important to understand. It's not going to have that critical thinking or those fresh perspectives that you only get just from that brainstorm session you have, let's say with your team or with somebody.
I think one of the really great things here is that it does take a lot of the legwork out on the research side. And at least for me personally, whenever I'm in a brainstorming session, and obviously I'm not a writer, but as a founder, I'm constantly trying to come up with that, company roadmap or that brainstorming session with employees and team members. I think what's really great is now you can kind of take away some of the brain power that you're focusing on kind of the setup and the research, and you can focus that on the real iterations of your ideas, and kind of you're basically just making your brainstorming session much more efficient. Because I don't know about you, but I've walked out of brainstorming sessions where I am just exhausted, and I'm like, we are watching Netflix and ordering a pizza, because I'm over it. I can't think anymore. Decision fatigue.
It's such an energy suck. It was the brainstorming. It just requires so much of your thought power and your energy, and it's time consuming. So you're so right. Like, AI helps break down that time to get you to where you need to go a lot quicker, and you save a lot of time and a lot of wasted energy.
I have a question for you, because you just said something that made me start thinking. So when you have these brainstorming sessions and you are doing your research, do you find, like, before you get like into that session, like, you have your AI doing certain tasks for you so that when you go into that brainstorming session, you're already prepared and ready to go? Like, I'm just thinking, how do I get to, how can I fully use this?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the things that's really great is the idea of I've always been a kind of meeting agenda person. I think it's really great to come into something having at least a rough idea of what you're trying to accomplish. And so with AI, it allows me personally to vet out some of my streams of thought, getting ready for that agenda. It also helps me to find different avenues that I by myself wouldn't have thought of. It's like the best intern you've ever had. She is back there and she's on top of it. She's already Googled everything that you were talking about in your meeting. And she's, so she's like, hey, just wanted to tell you, like, this is up 45% and then this and that, and other brands are doing something like this. And so it just allows you to save time. And also, I don't know about you guys, but I forget a lot of things. I am the king of like trying to find ways to be more efficient in my memory. And so having someone that you feel like has your back and has been note-taking in a very thoughtful and meaningful way is really great for future brainstorming sessions. And it just grows with you, right? So like every time I'm looking at something on ChatGPT, it's like, does this refer to Foster's Lab, or does this refer to like Fari, my family office that I invest with? So it allows, and to take that train of thought. It is such a powerful tool. The thing is it's just about playing around with it. You can't replace yourself, right? Like, I think you both are going to bring such amazing things to the table as a human being and with your experience and with thinking outside the box. But what it can do is organize those thoughts and the direction of what you're thinking, and maybe open up more idea avenues that you hadn't previously really considered.
Oh yeah, I mean, that there's so much you said that I want to unpack, because there's something so true about what you're saying, is that we only have so much memory capacity. So I love that in ChatGPT, it could take things that you said, hopefully in time a year or two ago, right? I don't know if we're that far in of how long it's been used, and then put all the pieces together. So that way it comes up with something far greater, where it would take us a long time to backtrack, find that data where we stored it, probably stored it somewhere we don't remember where it was. It just keeps everything together and puts all the pieces together beautifully, and in a very thoughtful, and it gives you a very thoughtful and quick response to it all.
So is it almost going to be where it gets to like know me in a sense?
No, it does know you.
Well, meaning, it's going to know me, but it will know
how you think,
how I think. Like, is this going to be my sidekick? Is what I need to know.
Your personal intern.
It's your personal intern, and she is killing it. She is out there and she is killing it.
Somebody needs to.
She is dressed well. She is thoughtful. She is smart. She's intuitive. She's got your back, and yeah, she will start to. She'll like a great intern or assistant. She'll know the ability or your voice, right? And also like how you would approach a situation. I think the best thing is like the more input, the better. So me talking about being able to take branding, you're being able to take actual products, you're being able to take stories that you're thinking of, and then really place them into an image. right? Which is completely different than before. So for example, you guys want to take this podcast, you want to take the recording of it, you transcript it, it goes into AI, and you say, make an image, an AI generated image. Maybe that image is going to be really cool. Maybe it's going to be really weird. We don't know. But the idea is that you could take that image and be like an AI generated image from our AI podcast, right? And that could be a social media post. It is just taking an idea to like execution and is making that time so short. And again, just like brainstorming sessions, not every idea is a great one. So not every response is going to be great. It's not a miracle, right? It is a tool that you can use. And the more familiar you get with that tool and the better you get with prompting versus questions, you get to start getting better results. And it's just like anything else.
You know what? I know people that will have 2 separate login accounts because they feel like their personal life, they're a different person than they're at work, and they need different information, and they don't want that crossed. So they want ChatGPT to learn them without work involved. So I think it is. So it's very interesting how people are utilizing it and in different ways. I'm also curious from your perspective as a tech person, how have you seen AI evolve to where it is now and potentially where it's going? But what are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, I think we're still in an early stage. I think what it's going to be able to accomplish is amazing. You definitely can tell. There's always in San Francisco, there's always a way to tell like where something is moving based on all the billboards around the city and on the way to the airport. And every single billboard is AI. I think you're going to see that there's going to be so many more businesses that start around AI, whether it's, from the marketing perspective, you're still going to have people put in kind of like this like word vomit, if you will, into ChatGPT and expect something really amazing to come out of it. And that's not really how it works, right? It's taking what you are capable of and what your expertise are. And when prompting, which I'll kind of just get into really quick. So prompting is when you are really, really specific with AI, as opposed to asking a question, like a question, what is this one thing, right? Versus, I really want to know more about this. I don't want to know about this aspect of it. I want to know. So for example, when I just quickly created a PR strategy for Foster's Lab, the skincare brand that I have, it said, all these things. And it used the word intimate a lot, which to me, it was like, I don't know if that's the best like brand imaging. So then the next prompt is exclude words like intimacy. I would like these things and be very specific about what you're wanting back, right? I want it in this kind of format. My goals for this are that, and just write out your goals. It's kind of like a dump, but you're writing out your goals, but you're also writing out your anti-goals. So your anti-goals, you're saying, I don't want back a bullet point list of something. I don't want back things that involve tons of pink. I don't want back things that are hyper masculine. I don't want back things that are feminine. You could really get into the granular details, which is so important because if what you want back is magic, you gotta put a lot into that recipe, right? You can't just kind of come off the cuff.
That's such a good point. I mean, I love that tagline right there. Is about making sure you tell it what you don't want, because that's a huge part of them understanding. When I say them, ChatGPTs and the LLMs, but of them understanding how you're phrasing this and how this would come out of your perspective, because it's a learning process for the LLMs, for them to be able to pull exactly what you need. You're not going to get something instantaneous, perfect right off the bat. I mean, maybe in time it'll get to that, but where we are now is you have to give it a lot of direction.
Like you're training it.
I'm
training my intern. I think I have to give it a name too. I do talk to it. Well, when I say talk to it, I don't want to sound crazy, but I feel like throughout the day, if you're communicating with it, it's almost like after the end of the day, I'm like, all right, I've seen enough of you. I need a break from you. But yeah, I mean, I do think too, it's almost not so much that we're competing with these platforms. It's almost that we have to learn how to collaborate with them, right? We have to learn, just like we have to learn how to work with our coworkers. I think we have to look at these LLMs as our coworkers now.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things is that we're in the now. Do not be scared. The the more you play around with it, the more you realize that it is actually such a great tool that makes you more efficient and better. I think one of the things that I've heard a lot of people in San Francisco say, because there's always this like, and even you started with it, like, will it take away my shine? Will it take away the me? Will it make me obsolete? And that's not the case. It makes you way more efficient. So it allows you to be able to utilize your skills more efficiently, more like in a shorter period of time. But also, you're right. You're training it up. You're training this assistant, if you will, and you should name it. I would highly recommend that. And I think you're right. It's like getting to work with your coworkers. But the other thing that is really important is to overshare, right? So, for example, when you're going into a meeting, you should be having those notes, right? Something recording those notes, dictating it, and giving it to AI, right? So whether you want a meeting summary, but also you could say, it's still learning all those things. So for example, in a brainstorming session, when you feel, dead, or for example, when you're talking to a friend or a colleague or an industry expert, you should be recording that in order to dictate that to then ChatGPT, right? So that you can come up with interesting angles to pitch stories,
100%.
right? So it has all that information.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too, because so many people say, oh, AI is going to reduce PR firms. It's going to take away your job. And I'm like, that's not the case at all. I think it just helps make our work more efficient by doing things like that, where we can dissect things a lot quicker, get what we need, but we still will need the human element of pitching it to the media and being able to do things and add the human element and the touches and fine tune things. You still need that person to be able to facilitate it all. But I don't think it'll ever take away from PR, take away the PR firm and the need for them. I think it will just add to the quality of our work.
Well, you need the human connection, right? Mm-hmm. And that's part of what PR is about. We're connectors. We are taking brands or businesses or CEOs, those thought leaders, and we're helping to put that human touch to them, right? So I don't think can AI really understand the tone or let's say the nuance of the way I or anybody is as a human connector? I don't know if it can. So I think while it can help us in certain ways, we still need that human touch to something.
And what's interesting too is aside from it being, well, I guess it is, there's so much information there. With that too, it's now become a platform to do business in the sense of, over 1 billion referrals per a month are being dealt through these ChatGPTs, the LLMs, right? So it's now a source where instead people are just people aren't just Googling because, you get all the ads and all that. Yep. They're going to ChatGPT and saying, give me the top 10, give me the top 5 in my area and getting the referrals from there. So that's a whole different business perspective to think about now.
Well, and that's why you need play on the book, why you need PR, because what does PR do? We're helping get those placements. Mm-hmm. We're helping get those brands, those businesses into the news. Mm-hmm. And those search engines are what's pulling it, right? So when I go to ChatGPT and I say, give me the top 5, restaurants in New York City, or I'm going to say the top 5 pizzerias in New York City, that our client is going to be in there because the PR work that's being done behind the scenes for him, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to, it's never going to take the place.
Correct.
It's never going to take the place.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember that these are all just feeding off huge sources of data, right? So the more data that you have out there, the more that you're going to be a topic of the conversation of the results.
Yeah, and that's important to be able to keep being a part of the conversation. And with content generation now, that's the best way to get all of your company's name pulled into the search results is through this content generation. And isn't it funny that all these LLMs are helping you create this content to keep up with the search results too?
I think the one thing, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, that I think it scares me a little bit about this is that let's say somebody uses it to write content, right? They use it to write a story. Am I going to be able to tell that it was written by AI or I feel like I would be able to, but I don't know. That scares me a little bit because I would never want AI to literally write something for me. Because then I feel like, where is that human connection? I keep going back to that human connection. So I know you've, talked a lot about using it, brainstorming and to give you ideas. Do you feel like if somebody pitched you something or shared something with you that was written completely using, I'll say ChatGPT, would you be able to notice? That's what scares me as a writer.
Honestly, I think the other question is, are people reading as much as they were before, or are they putting that into AI and asking for summarization? I think that that's kind of the thing.
That's an interesting perspective because people are to get the consolidated high level because people don't have the times anymore. It's just full circle. It always keeps everyone's inputting everything to get the nuggets.
I think it's going to be who is your audience, right? I don't know about you guys, but I still really like reading the paper. I feel like it's like a lost thing that I still really like. And I think, I still love books. Like I said, even just getting ready for this, I could have, I guess, put in ChatGPT, like summarize high key points of you need PR. But it's for me, the brainstorming session I still really like to have that. I've even heard things of like how this is going to change where like the keyboard's going to be obsolete.
What?
You know?
I love typing. No.
I hate it. I could do voice dictation all day.
Oh my God, this is so crazy. But no, I agree with you when you just said about reading, newspaper. There, to me, is something, I don't even know how many years ago when they first came out. I don't mean to date myself, but when they came out with like a Kindle and people were reading books on this, contraption, I couldn't do it. I feel like I like to touch the paper. I want to feel the book. So I guess, I still like newspapers and magazines. I don't know, there's just something about it. But I guess if you are pressed for time, I'm not going to lie, if somebody sends me an article and I'm reading through it and it's really in depth, or when I say in depth, maybe very technical, because for me, I may, maybe I will utilize ChatGPT instead of me reading through it and going, wait, what is that saying? Throwing it into the ChatGPT or another LLM and saying, can you summarize this for me? What are the high level points? What should I be focused on here? I think that's a good way to, utilize it, but not take away my creativity.
Yeah,
I guess I'm scared.
Yeah. So, I think the way that you Google words or Google things during an article, you're just, instead of putting it into Google, you're putting it into ChatGPT and asking more in-depth questions and getting a little bit more of I don't know if I want to say interactive, but a little bit more of a thought-provoking and keyly, like very well-directed response, as opposed to, here are the top results for, whatever you just Googled about a key aspect in that article,
And I think too, with that too, so I think there's another component of this relative to PR is that the ChatGPTs and LLMs really help streamline workflow. So it helps improve a lot of these behind the scenes processes, like, the building of the media list, right? So we have our normal platforms that we work with on the PR side. There's Decision, the Muck Rack, right? And that's pulling all this information. But now we have a third platform, this ChatGPT that we all use, that can help now as an extra source to be able to do our jobs efficiently. So it's interesting to see how not even just PR, just all industries are using AI just to be smarter in what they do. There's so many opportunities with LLMs, and it's interesting to see how everyone's adapting to it.
I think too, PR is really rooted in trust. And so that if you're, when a client or a potential client or somebody comes to you, they're putting their brand, right? They're putting I'll call it your baby, right? I've created something, you've created something. If you look to somebody to help you. So if you use these platforms to streamline that work, right? Like the brainstorm sessions and really just get the tasks, I guess you could call it. It allows you then to focus more on the creative and really get deeper in to whatever it is you're working on, right? So you can give a little more, give a little extra creativity, if that even makes sense. Maybe it takes away some of that back work, like almost like the assistant work. And then you can kind of focus a little more on the creativity and the authenticity that goes into it.
One of the things is too, is like you just said, like that outreach PR list that you just generated with, ChatGPT. It's like, oh, I never even thought about, Women's Wear Daily for something, or I never even thought about this. And so it's creating that list and then also allowing you to have a more thoughtful list and have things that you didn't think. But if you think that ChatGPT is going to contact someone at, any of these contacts, no, that's not it. And I firmly believe that human interaction is going to be even more high valued with so much technology becoming more and more a part of our everyday lives.
Yeah, I think that's true too, in the sense that it's so important to be able to trust who you're dealing with, who you're speaking with, right? That's how you build relationships. So I think that ChatGPT's LLMs, they'll never take that away. it'll just be, you still need the human regardless, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. But I do think there's a component to these LLMs that there's these predictive models that and please tell us a little bit more about this, about the trend spotting and be able to forecast things. There's something to it that really gives you more information.
I think with all of these things and all of these tools, trend forecasting, trying to find trend forecasting for any kind of business is very important. But I think you always have to remember that it's nothing's a miracle product, right? So like nothing is going to be like, oh, this is the trend that's going to come up in 3 weeks, in 6 weeks, get ahead of it and do this. And I think remembering also like who is behind each program, for example, right? If you're trying to find trends within TikTok in your TikTok shop, or if you utilize TikTok or utilize Meta, remember that those are based on an ad platform. And so they're really talking about advertising as opposed to kind of a non-biased trend forecasting report, right? So they're trying to get you to spend ad spend. Other ways, would be like finding third-party trend analysis. But I don't think we're really there yet. I think we're still in the infancy stage for trying to have a miracle, almost like a crystal ball, right? Like trying to figure out trends, trying to figure out, what's coming in any kind of industry. I think, being able to create content is really where it's shining at the moment. I don't think that trends outside of the advertising space are going to be very useful just yet.
It kind of makes me think more about the future of PR and PR strategy. Could AI ever have its own offering of like AI powered PR strategy? I mean, it could. You never know how we can implement things in the future, and how agencies can come up with tools that will help improve all of this.
Well, I know we recently had a workshop here, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I think it's time now for people to start training their teams, right? Yeah. Because like somebody like me, I'm just starting to, I know how to use it, right? Am I using it to the fullest capacities to make it work for me, right? Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, put in certain prompts, tell it certain things, train it, so that if I need it to do that quote assistant work for me while on the back end, while I'm, brainstorming or I'm doing some creative work for a client. But I would think right now is the time where all businesses, entrepreneurs, founders, whatever the size of your team is, start bringing them into this conversation, right? Don't just assume that they know what they're doing or how they should be using it, because there's probably a certain way that you should be using it, right? Like, don't put in something and then just give it to somebody, right? You have to proof it. You have to fact check it, because again, it's not 100%. I mean, I'm sure it is factual, but is it 100% factual? I don't know.
I mean, for me personally, and like an investing strategy, right? When I see new companies, like if they're not spending a predominant amount of time in AI and figuring it out, for example, like, setting aside each employee 20 minutes a day to play with AI, to be working with ChatGPT, or it's going to be such an integral part of our lives. And I think every business, right, when they have that competitive advantage, I mean, right, everyone's looking for a competitive advantage, and being able to understand AI. I think when it comes to AI as almost a PR firm, it's different. I think AI PR firm might not be standalone. I think there might be a folding in with other kinds of media outreach, right? So like the PR that's going to come up is going to be like a content generation meets with like a pitch, right? Possibly to media. I think it'd be really interesting for you guys to explore how that's going to look with AI and be the forefront of it.
I know there's so much we can do with it. And I think too, it stems with the literacy, like you were talking about, and what you're saying about spending time each day, diving in, navigating it. You never know what you could brainstorm from this, but it's important to be a part of the conversation. It's important to be learning about it, because there's really so much. It's just like you said, this is the beginning of it. This is just the early stages of AI, and it's just going to be more and more of it. So it's better to be a part of the process for sure.
It's the magic of creation. It's one of the reasons I love being a founder, is the idea of taking an idea and playing with it and molding it. And that's essentially how you should look at these tools. You're just taking an idea and you're letting it take shape organically on its own through your inputs. I think that is like the most magical thing. Look at it as growth and not as, something that's coming, that's like, a job threat.
I love this. Magical. It's the magical component.
I'm writing this
that
down.
will help you grow, and you can get creative with it and use it as kind of like a mold.
Something else you just said when you said through your inputs, right? So I think that's really important to remember. If you're inputting, right, you're telling it, it's starting to know you. It's almost like almost an extension of your brain. So maybe that will make me feel a little better in the sense that I'm not just relying on it to just give me something, right? If I say, I need you to give me X, Y, and Z in this way, I don't want this, this, and this, I'm telling it so it'll spit it back. And then I can look at it and say, okay, that's not what I meant. Let's refine that. Or, okay, you're on the right track. Let's add to it. So it's working with you, not for you. Because I want, people to understand, when you're working in our business with clients, we're working for them, but so is this. So it's an extension of us. So it's almost like we're cloning ourselves to give them that extra. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. I also think that you guys are so well positioned as New Yorkers because it's so much easier for you to tell, like, to be telling it what you don't want and be more assertive. So that's more your personality. You're gonna do so well at prompting.
My chat GPT may turn around and go, what the hell do you want? Because you don't want anything. I'm like kidding. We might get in a fight at the end of the day. I don't know. But we'll see. We will see. I got to come up with a good name for her because we are very close.
Please report back.
I will. I will report back.
Right.
We have to be something fancy. No, I'm only kidding. No, I mean, this is so interesting. I feel like the knowledge that you've been sharing, Jenna, like we've been having these conversations, as I mentioned, it's interesting because if you don't get on board, the train is definitely leaving without you. And not to use like that kind of metaphor, but you have to jump on it. Like you just said, if you don't see companies or founders spending time and having their employees spend time, that's probably a red flag, I would assume, for you too.
Yeah. For
sure. And I think it's just like any other tool, right? We now take as commonplace, Word doc, like it's all these things, right? Like first we went from a Word doc, and not to date myself as well, but we went from like a Word doc on your computer to now Google Docs, which allows us to interact and work. We're seamlessly moving. It's happening a lot faster now. And I think, again, thinking of it as a thing to play with and grow with, as opposed to something to fear.
Yeah. I think this conversation has been awesome. I feel like we could revisit this in 2 months and it's going to be a completely different perspective that we have on it, and probably a bit of information to learn from.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm walking away from this conversation with the mindset of it's a collaborator, not a competitor. It's not taking anything away from me. And I'm sure if we have this conversation again in 2 months, I'll probably come away with something even more. And then I'll let you know what my chat GPT or my new intern's assistant, whatever you want to call it, is named.
Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any last minute thoughts, insights to leave our viewers with?
No, I think it's just, again, it's something to mold and play with. And it's really just your sidekick, your intern, your best friend, to be able to make you more efficient and to like think out, all of your ideas. And there's always these like reels that I see and stuff. It's like, I was like going to bed at 3, but instead I came up with 10 new business ideas and like talked to ChatGPT about it. So I think it's just really interesting, and it's a tool that we're going to continue to use, and I think it's going to be really great for especially professionals. Absolutely.
Anthony, for our viewers, how can they stay in touch with you?
So if you wanted to, Foster's Lab is fosterslab.com and at fosters.lab. And then my name is Anthony Shook, and I'm on Instagram as well and stuff. And pretty much mine are just like flying videos because I'm also a pilot.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This is so much fun, Anthony. Thank you for this.
Thank